Hello, everyone. Good Friday afternoon. Hope you've all had a fantastic week, that everyone's keeping safe, and also looking forward to the weekend. Thank you for joining us for today's session. As you're coming in, you'll see an opening poll. So we would love if you could just fill that out. We'd love to see who's in the room. Really appreciate everyone taking their Friday afternoon to join us. So as people are just streaming in, my name's Wen and I'm from TBN Asia, and I'll be your host for today. So for those who don't know, or is your first time at TBN Asia, I thought I'll just give a quick intro. TBN Asia is a nonprofit based here in Singapore, and we are focused on poverty alleviation and working with ecosystem partners, but specifically social enterprises and social entrepreneurs in the Southeast Asian region. And so we're really excited to have 4 social entrepreneurs and all from different countries in Southeast Asia, but also our partners. So you'll see in the room MaGIC, which is the Malaysian Global Innovation and Creativity Centre. So there's Reza from MaGIC, and our good friends are from Social Enterprise Thailand. So we're just really excited to have everyone here. So if you can just keep going with the poll, and then Bernice, when you're ready, you can just put up the results and then we can have a look. So with the 4 social enterprises, like I said, they're coming from 4 different countries. We have Laris Widyaputri from Indonesia, the founder and CEO of Ecodo. We have Lagitha Balakrishnan, the Makan Advisor. That's a really good title. For those who don't know what Makan is eat in Malay. So we don't want to assume that everyone knows what that is. So the Makan Advisor at PizzaEats in Malaysia. We have Amy Ratanataya, the CFO at Local Alike in Thailand. And last but definitely not least, we have Michelle Lee, founder of I'm Soul Inc., based here in Singapore. So basically, the session we split out that each of them will share about what they do. They have their own moderators. So we have TBN Asia, SE Thailand, MaGIC to moderate those shorter sessions. During the whole session, please put in questions in the chat box. And if it's something that the entrepreneurs can answer on the chat box, please do. But otherwise, we can also save them for a bit of a Q&A session after the 4 social entrepreneurs have shared about their work. So today it's all about thriving through COVID and business pivoting case studies. So each of them will be talking about their work, how the last 18 months they've had to pivot, what they've done, and where are they now. So I think this hopefully will be an inspiring session for people to pick up things. And I love it that we're sharing across the region. So it could be things that, let's say it's happening in Thailand and it's a really great idea, and maybe us in Singapore or other places can also pick it up, or even share it in our separate little ecosystems specific to our countries. So the poll is done. So we have mostly Malaysians, a couple of Thai, and everyone is an entrepreneur and someone's new to the impact space. So thank you for joining us. I have to say that when I started out in kind of impact investing and this kind of area, TBN was one of my first places to go to. I went to their conference and I've just learned a lot just being part of the community. And so we try not to use jargon words. So if there's any words that you don't understand or you want to clarify, it's a safe space. So please do ask. And a couple of people, from TBN Asia, MaGIC and SE Thailand and other. So without further ado, I'm actually going to pass this time to Wayne Chia, and he's going to start with his first social enterprise.
Thanks, Ren, and very good afternoon to all of you guys. It's a nice cozy setting with good friends. I would say from the poll, it seems like quite a fair bit from this space. So as Ren mentioned, if there's anything that you don't quite understand, feel free to put it in the chat, and we will also have a live Q&A at the end, right? To make this a more interactive session. So the first social enterprise that we are going to share about is called Ecodo. Now, they cannot be here in person. The whole team is involved in a strategy session, I believe. So, but it's still important that we share their story, and there's a reason specifically why we want their story to be shared, which you'll kind of know in a little bit. So what we are about to share with you is clips from the conference that just happened recently, which talks exactly about some of these key topics how do you thrive in the midst of, how do you survive, how do you pivot, right? So just a bit of a context, Ecodo is a B2B procurement platform. So think of it as a little bit like Alibaba, except that their suppliers are not big factories in China, but their suppliers, the people who fulfill the orders, are small micro SMEs or home-based businesses. So what's interesting about their platform is that if there's a few thousand units order, they can kind of split it amongst a few small home-based businesses and collate them together to fulfill that order. So that's kind of how they are matching supply and demand in a very unique way, and that's what makes this platform impactful. So without further ado, we will just share a very quick run through of what they do, where Lara's kind of introduce herself a little bit and her journey.
Good day, everyone. What started me to building Ecodo actually because I grew up with a very good memories of childhood because me, my grandmother, and my mother, we start to build our business from the garage, from the house. My mother and grandmother, they start cooking and selling things to the neighbors. But actually, their business didn't grow up further, even though it already takes like 15 years. And when I was in the college, I had opportunity to go to Yogyakarta, Bali, as you know, the center of arts and crafts in Indonesia. But what happened there in Bali and Yogyakarta, the micro SMEs also didn't grow their business further because they don't have access to the digital market with only like under $1 daily sales. The situation's kind of different when I had opportunity to visit India, Dharavi, the place of a slumdog billionaire scene. So Dharavi is the biggest landfill in India. The people that live there, actually, they're working together, produce things, goods, and they could export the goods to the global countries through e-commerce. That's kind of the movement that I think started to push me to duplicate it to Indonesia, where the micro SMEs could have access to B2B market and also have similar opportunity to access microfinance and even have access to the mentor to leverage their business further.
So next we will share a very simple clip of how Ecodo actually impacts their beneficiaries.
Cerita ini dimulai ketika saya baru mulai usaha tahun 2009. Awalnya kami usaha dengan membuka toko seperti biasa. Ya, namanya toko kecil, jangkauan yang kami miliki juga terbatas. Saya mencoba membuat desain ala kadarnya. Yang penting kan desainnya banyak dan menarik. Badai menghantam bisnis kami. Sebulan sudah laci kami kosong, tidak berpenghuni. Tahun 2013 menjadi tahun terberat bagi kami. Alhamdulillah tahun 2018 kami dikenalkan dengan Ecodo. Ecodo menjadi hadiah bagi kami setelah kami tidak sanggup lagi membuka toko souvenir karena sepi orderan. Saya dibantu marketing, desain hingga kemudahan pinjaman modal bahan baku, serta modal kerja. Sehingga order besar bisa kami dapatkan kembali. Kami dibanjiri orderan tas dalam jumlah besar, ribuan hingga puluhan ribu. Dan saat ini kami sudah punya 4 karyawan tetap. Dan usaha kami semakin lancar dan terbantu. Akhirnya omset kami pun naik hingga 50% dari tahun ke tahun. Terima kasih Ecodo. Semoga bisa tetap maju. Teruslah jadi hadiah yang menopang seperti keluarga bagi kami dan masyarakat.
Di Ecodo, kami percaya bahwa ekonomi gotong royong adalah masa depan ekonomi Indonesia. Kami mengantarkan kebahagiaan melalui souvenir. Kebahagiaan itu dibuat secara khusus oleh para kreator pengrajin di seluruh Indonesia.
So it's very nice to see quite a number of our partners' logos there: DBS Foundation, SIF, ABPN. Now, what's unique about the Ecodo story and why we still wanted them to share their story is that the first case of COVID-19 in Indonesia actually happened in the Ecodo's building. So these guys are one of the guys who have the earliest exposure to COVID-19 and the reality of the effect. So that's why we wanted to share their story. So the next part, you will hear from Laras on what are the challenges they face and how they pivoted. And since this is the recording, you will see that you may see me reappearing wearing something very different. I assure you, I didn't just run out to change. I'm still where I am. Is that because I was also the panelist? I was actually the moderator actually for this recorded panel. So if we can just play the next segment, please.
You were just about to get started to say that the very first COVID-19 case in Indonesia was transmitted in the Ecodo office, the building, I mean.
Yeah, when at that moment we start to make it as opportunity for us to adapt earlier. That's why we collaborate with the micro SMEs. We invite them to talk and then socialize for them as well, because they need to understand that maybe this pandemic will be happen in like 1 year, 2 years, or we don't know when it will be ended. That's why we need to innovate to have a change to our business model, to our product lines. And then we also got advice from Ibu Virginia Tan from Teja Ventures that Ecodo need to focus on our strength, which is procurement services to help the government, to help the corporates sourcing goods and healthcare package with the standardized hygiene services. That's why we try to communicate with the local government. So we conduct training and education to the micro SMEs so they could produce standardized PPE, face masks, and also have access to the microfinance. We also collaborate. Finally, we execute our new business model as well, additional business model to connect them to the microfinance from NGOs, local and international institutions, so they could have a budget to keep innovating new product lines, and then also executing their marketing budget, so they still have decent income. And what's good from that story, actually one story from our micro SMEs named Fat from Bandung. So before pandemic, he only have 20 ibus working from his house, and because pandemic, he able to produce PPE to the firefighter agency, and now he just have opportunity to handle around 200 machines and e-books from his new investors. So it becomes our turning point as well to really make sure that micro SMEs, even though we are small, we could encourage them to move, to innovate, and then to adapt in this new normal, and also keep innovating to diverse our products and services align with the industry and clients' need. So thanks God that because of the innovation from the micro SMEs as well, they could still have decent income and survive in this pandemic.
Interesting. So the very fact that the first COVID-19 case happened in your building make the whole thing even more real to the Ecodo team. And as a result of that, you actually got the micro SMEs to be trained on safety standards, went into production of PPEs. And so that's one very huge difference that you made to in terms of pivoting for the beneficiaries. But what about Ecodo? I mean, I kind of heard microfinance, I kind of heard product innovation. What were some of the things that you guys did as a company that helped you, that you repivoted or reinvented during the pandemic itself?
For our company, the very first is to, moving from the product lines. Before pandemic, we only focus in providing corporate gifting for big companies. But because pandemic, we start to, educating our micro SMEs to produce PPE, healthcare and safety. And we also trying to figure out other opportunity for the micro SMEs that it ended to be, our new business model, because before pandemic, when the B2B clients would like to purchase from micro SMEs, somehow they will pay after the products delivered, and it's very hard for micro SMEs to start producing because they don't have enough cash. That's why before pandemic, it's Ecodo who fulfill to pay the micro SMEs first. But then we come up with the idea to bridge with the microfinance partner to bridge this to the micro SMEs, and it also become opportunity for us to look for future collaboration with other big companies, like providing affordable internet package to the micro SMEs supported by our investors as well. And it also help us to rethinking about how we could have similar vision with the team member who couldn't meet each other in offline, and it also give us opportunity to even hire team members outside of Java Island, and giving opportunity for the local employee to also take part in this opportunity, and then to engage more with the community outside Java Island, because as you know that Indonesia is still Java centrist, and then we still have more millions micro SMEs out of Java that also impacted by this pandemic.
That's really interesting. So you actually pivoted as a company from the from the corporate gifts product line to the PPE and a safety and healthcare product line. And I believe that there was a lot of high demand on that. And as a result of that, the MSMEs actually need working capital to produce some of this, to buy raw material. And out of necessity, you develop a microfinance product line so that you can help the MSMEs finance the initial production costs. And you also help provide internet access for them, and not just for the MSMEs, but it sounds like that also had some changes to the way you rethink hiring and recruitment, and you started hiring outside of the Java Island, and that is probably the start for more regional expansion for Ecodo, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so.
Very good, very inspiring, Laras.
Okay. So that is kind of the sharing for Ecodo. Can we have the summary slide up, please? I have my past self to thank for really summarizing everything very nicely. So, but we'll just have something very visual in case you miss bits and pieces of that. Can we have the summary slide up, please? So that you kind of get a snapshot of what are the things that have been shared. Sorry, is it already up, or am I missing this?
Sorry, Win, I don't think the summary slide for Ecodo is available right now.
Oh, okay. No worries. No worries. Again, like I said, I have to thank my past self for coming out with already giving a good summary. But just one last thing I'd like to add, in case you didn't quite catch that. Previously, what these guys did was that they actually were the ones who actually financed the MSMEs, meaning that they were the ones who actually take the order, pay the MSMEs first, and then they are the guys who are actually financing the whole deal. So this became obviously not very sustainable during COVID-19. So what happens is now with a third-party partner coming in, providing the financing, everyone wins. So now they don't have to be the ones taking the credit risk. The MSMEs are able to have working capital at an interest, of course, but a reasonable interest, and the third-party financing partner also makes a small cut from this whole thing. So everyone wins, right? So this is a very nice way as to how all parties involved with some creative thinking, there's more win-win situations that can happen. So that's kind of a bit of the Ecodo story. We hope this has been very helpful. Now, with that, we will now move on to the more exciting parts whereby you get to now hear from the live entrepreneurs. And with that, I'll hand the time over to Reza from MaGIC.
All right. Hi. Thanks, Wayne. Thanks to the current Wayne and past Wayne, both of you.
Time travel, right?
Time travel. Right. So anyway, hi everyone. Good afternoon to everyone. Hope you guys enjoy the video. I mean, I do enjoy the videos now, and it's really nice actually to hear. I mean, to have this session today where we have representative from each country. So you guys, audience out there, you guys can see like basically the issue. You guys can't say that, oh, it's only happening in this country. Or it's tough because I'm from Malaysia, or I'm from Indonesia, or Singapore, but actually it's the same throughout the region, right? I mean, the idea of we have this session, of course, to learn from each other. So I think, so before I start, maybe I can just get Lugita as well. So me, as Wayne and Wayne mentioned earlier, is like today this session is by PizzaEats. Basically, Lugita will share some of her experience in the last 1 year. What did she went through? How did she overcome? And where are they now, right? So as usual, I think just to make things short, because we do have a short time to make sure that everyone have enough time to explain about how did they pivot. Maybe you can start by what is PizzaEats actually?
Hi Reza, hi everyone here. We have 22 people in the room. That's quite good.
Yeah.
So everyone, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Anything that comes to mind, just drop in a chat. I'll reply you guys later or as I see them. PizzaEats, right? So we are a food delivery company that partners with refugee chefs here in Malaysia. So if you're not aware, here in Malaysia, refugees cannot work, not legally at least. So what we do is we sort of came up with a business model where they can still earn an income by partnering with them, and they act as our suppliers. So I think what will do the talking best is when I show you the food itself. So this is our website. I'm going to do live promo for you guys. Yeah, we do meal deliveries, we do food catering, we used to do a lot of events, a lot of that you can see like videos and things moving. So these are all the chefs cooking. And the intention behind this whole thing is to allow refugees here to still be able to earn a living in a dignified manner rather than having to go and work illegally somewhere or be at the mercy of just any employer and that kind of relationship, which is not legal. Yep.
Yeah. And how long have you guys been starting actually? Since 2000?
Technically, it's already been running for 6 years now. 16 January onwards, almost 6 years now. Yep.
Okay. And actually, I'm curious to ask you this question after I heard Wayne mention your role. So what do Makan Advisor do in PizzaEats, to be honest?
That's my...
Do you like eat everything and then you decide like, okay, this is good, this is not?
So, the thing is, my actual role is sales. PizzaEats, I'm the head of sales at PizzaEats. And I found it like so boring, like everyone was like, oh my God, you're a salesperson, you just want to sell me stuff. So I just renamed my whole title. I was like, I'm an advisor. Because the entire reason when I joined this whole company about 4 years ago was I really like food, and I'm the kind that I eat everything, but I am picky. I don't eat it if it's shit. Like you can see, if you see my plate is not finished, right? I probably don't like the food, right? Yes, drinks, dining, and eating, especially if you're selling food, Wayne, come on. So I decided I'm going to name myself the Makan Advisor because I love the part of my job where I tell you what to order. I tell you, oh, you have this event, oh, you want to do this. And when it comes to weddings, it is even more of a pleasure because now I get to tell you like, oh, you like this kind of crowd, you should order this if you have this kind of crowd. So I'm all about the customer. I'm not going to try to put things that you shouldn't be eating or you don't want to eat. And then in the end, I decided like, you know what, that's more reflective of my job than just the sales thing, right?
Yep, true. I mean, now makes sense, right? I mean, and it's good that you mentioned about sales. I mean, actually, we wanted to know, because you did mention you do catering, you do event. Is that like your primary business model? I mean,
yes.
Since you guys started, like meaning like people purchase, it's always been B2B corporate kind of thing?
Okay, so when we started initially, I'll give you a little bit of an origin story here, right?
Yeah.
So when we started, it was never meant to be like, okay, we're gonna go and sell food and take over all the catering companies in town. It was never meant to be. So what happened was, when we found out that refugees cannot work in Malaysia, we needed to find a way like, okay, what can we sell that can buy on an everyday basis? People need to eat. So it started from like meal boxes, selling it to uni students. And after a few months, we actually got like our first corporate inquiry to do catering, like, you know, the buffet style events and things like that. So we got an inquiry. At that point, no one knew how to do a catering. No one knew what it took, what it involved. And Google, YouTube, all of those things saved us. And once we started doing that, it was a big corporate company here in Malaysia. So once we started doing that, then it sort of started spreading that people could do good while eating at the same time. And companies at that point thinking like, hey, you know what, since you already have this certain budget, since you already have a certain allocation to do this, why not we try food? And you get to try a lot of amazing things from different countries and things like that. And that's how the whole catering thing started. And right before the pandemic, we were about 70% doing B2B. And then about 30% was on the consumer side of things. Weddings were really picking up as well.
Yep. And then pandemic happens, right?
And then the pandemic happens.
Then pandemic happens. Of course, it's tough, right? I mean, talking about like catering, talking about events, and the first thing pandemic that we cannot do is hang out, right? Hang out and gathering. So what's the challenge that you faced during that time?
Okay, so in Malaysia, I'm assuming there's people from other places here. So okay, Malaysia, what happened, right, was the lockdown officially happened on the 18th of March in 2020, but we already started seeing the effects starting from February. So February is Chinese New Year time. A lot of caterings lined up and things like that, but the corporates were already slowly cancelling because they were not allowed to do any events anymore, like internal regulations itself. No outsiders coming into the company, no gatherings more than 20 people, so to speak. Those kind of precautions were starting to get into place. So we knew then that, okay, this at that point, we thought, okay, this is probably going to last for like at least 3-4 months until Hari Raya time, right? God, forget all that now. So that was then. So in March, when the lockdown happened, consider business went from like, I don't know, like from everything to almost zero. So in March, we saw the things going from, say, like on average, like you earn 100,000 on a lower month, right? There is no festive seasons going on. And then it just went to like 10,000 when people order home deliveries, that's it. So completely. And our biggest concern at that point of time was if the money doesn't come in, like I said, our chefs are partner chefs, right? If the orders come in, the chefs don't earn anything.
Yep. Right?
And
how many
business model
chefs
doesn't work.
You have more than 10, right?
We have plus minus at any one point is about 15.
15. And you imagine if there's no sales, meaning that
Yes.
15
families. Yes.
Wow.
So imagine if you own a business and you cannot pay any of your employees, this is even worse. This is, we have made a promise to a whole community that you are earning income every month on month, right? And now you cannot fulfill it. And they don't really have another option to go and find another job. It's
because they can't work. They can't work in Asia.
Right. At least like, okay, let's say you and Mirza, like suddenly you got no income. At least you had the opportunity, you had a bank account, you got some kind of savings. For the next 3 months, you might still be like, you know, I'll cut corners and I might be able to survive. But with the refugee families, number one, they don't really get to open a bank account, savings, and whatever they earn, if they have extra, a lot of them also send it back home to their families back home. So there is no, apart from some chefs that do earn a lot, there is many of them don't really have a lot of like savings to last them through 3 months, 4 months, things like that. 1 month maximum, and that's it, right? Because they still have to pay their rent, they still have to have all the costs running.
So what happened next? I mean, how do you guys eventually, I mean, try to at least get them to earn some income? Like what happened next?
So this was in March. We knew like, okay, if the next 4 months is going to be the case, we need to figure out something else, right? Otherwise you'll be loaning chefs money and things like that. So the beginning idea was, okay, you know what, I think we need to do emergency loan funds and things like that for the chefs. So that's one part of it, just like to get like, make sure they can still eat, it doesn't get too bad and things like that. So that was one part of it on the more of like a philanthropic side, but we still need to figure out the business side. So on the business side, what we decided to do was come up with this whole new thing called like the frozen meals, where we made a product and a whole new business model. That's basically what happened. Otherwise, all our food is always delivered hot, right? We do like the buffet catering, we do like group style family meals, we do meal boxes for corporates, we do for conferences and things like that. All this Zero. Correct? We know we sell food. We know
Yeah.
food. Now,
Yeah.
what do we do with that now, right? So that
Mhm.
decided, okay, you know what? If we can already cook all this, you just need to figure out how to freeze whole chain process and things like that. So we worked all of those things out and we decided that, okay, you know what? If the problem here is also like our promise was like, you know what? You chefs, you can earn income sustainably across the month. How do we get that to happen? So we decided to build it as a subscription model as well. So for example, what happened then was we decided that, okay, you can order, for example, you Reza, if you want to subscribe to these ready to heat meals, I'm going to show the screen again.
Yeah, sure. I mean, because we do have, based on the survey, we have a lot of Malaysian, right? So maybe
right. Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. So like if you go like this is the website, you guys can see it. Anyone can't see it, I'm just going to drop it in the chat. Yeah. So we figured that if anyone here technically can make a difference, right? Commit to 60 ringgit a month, like you would give to any charity whatsoever. Let's say I'm like committing to 60 ringgit a month to get 3 meals every month, and I'm doing good at the same time. It seemed like I could use like some backup meals in my fridge, right? I could use some backup meals in my fridge. You could get all, and these things, whatever you see here, are what comes out of the box.
Okay.
Except like if you see fresh tomato, not from the box lah. Yeah. So these are what comes out of the box, and it's really great. Like, you know, you're sitting at home, all these Zoom calls start getting chaotic and things like that. It started fitting into people's lifestyles. And some who were still going to the office, they brought it to the office. Some people who were at home, they brought it at home. It was challenging to begin with because number one, we don't know whether this is going to work, right? Number two, the company is already running on low resources, right? We didn't want to let go of people who are working in the company because we know that at the end of the day, it's yes with the refugee chefs, but also if the people if we don't try to protect our people as much as we can also, we don't want that fate in like working in a social enterprise means uncertain future for you, right? So we want that at the end of the day, we managed like with this whole pivot to not let go of anyone.
That's great.
In the company. The chefs, most of them managed to earn a sustainable income. We managed to figure out how to sort of balance the ready-to-heat meals, frozen meals, which in the end is now about 1/3 of our revenues already. So we managed to somehow.
Yeah. So I mean, before I'm asking next question, for audience out there, you guys have question, either you can leave in the chat or you can hold it, or you can ask later at 6 o'clock. But so you mentioned you move into a frozen meal, right? Ready to heat. Does the idea came exactly as a brainstorm because of pandemic, or it was already in the pipeline? It's just a matter like I said, maybe one day I'm going to do it, and then bam, I have to do it now, or it's more like, guys, we need to do something. Let's brainstorm in the team and decide. Which one is it?
It was, I would say the idea was somewhat in a pipeline, but in a different form, right? So what happened was, for some time, we've been experimenting with freezing our snacks, freezing certain gravy, that kind of things that people can buy just like for family sort of thing, right? Like sometimes you're lazy to cook, you sort of just want to get like the chicken gravy or curry or something like that, and then you can make your own rice and make your own or you have people over for snacks. You know how that you have dumplings or something in the and steam it, you know, that kind of things, right? So we were thinking like these can be products that go on shelf in the malls, something like that. So those were the things that we were sort of kind of working on with the snacks and things which were easier to freeze, and we were experimenting those kind of things. But only when the pandemic hit that we were like, okay, now should we grow and take this to like a completely new direction when it comes to production, when it comes to everything. And that's when I think probably by the end of March, April, we decided. We did R&D for maybe 2 months. If I'm not mistaken, we launched, not like soft launch, the ready to heat meals was towards mid-June. So about 2.5 months.
A few months, 2-3 months.
Yeah, 2-3 months. And we soft launched it with existing clients. We get it, a lot of people to test and stuff. So the process, it took till we did like a full-on launch. We did that launch, I think, October last year.
Okay, so you do like
Public
just
launch.
to get your loyal customer to try first, because of course they are the one who less noise, right?
Give feedback also, right?
Give feedback, less noise, because you like suddenly go all out and then people like, hey, pizza's quality is getting low. I mean, so you go with someone who's close with you so that the noise is less, and also they feel appreciated, right? With the feedback that pizza is doing something new.
Correct.
But a pivoting and adaptation to a new is not easy. Especially, I mean, for a company, it's already tough. how does the refugee family feels about it? Because of course for them, this is something new.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because before this, I mean, I went to one of the kitchen before. It's more like just cook, pack, that's it, right? But now with something different, they have to like frozen. How does it work? How is their acceptance towards doing something new, knowing that
Right.
it's totally new for them?
Right. So we actually try to minimize as much possible impact on the chefs by not making the process too hard on their side. So how we do it now is the chefs still do the cooking, right? We actually tell them, okay, you need to chill it for X amount of time. You need to put it in the fridge for X amount of time. However, they do the packing for this. The entire packing thing, because we need it to last longer and things like that. And we need the temperature to make sure it maintains across certain time. And the vegetables and things that you cook for frozen meals is cooked in a very, very precise manner. So we tell a chef, you need to learn how to measure your water boiling temperature to 70 degrees Celsius. All kinds of things are right. So those kind of things are very complicated. So we hired an in-house chef who's a trained chef from one of those, not Michelin, very high. That's like very, very professionally trained and stuff like that. So she knows like exactly what you need to do in terms of like this kind of standards for you to be able to actually freeze it, right? Because it's very different when you cook hot and then you send it out, then the frozen one like you mentioned. So and that process, what we did was we taught them the basics of how you need to maintain everything, and then in bulk we send it to our production kitchen space, and then the packing, the veggies, all those things happen there.
So basically, I mean, yes, it's a pivot, but it makes it easier for them because at the end of the day, that shows the value of how Pizza is helping, right? It's not just about we helping you to sell, but also help you to pivot, find a way how to make sure you can still earn an income. So you mentioned you launched in October, and now it's a year. Wow, it's already a year. Congrats.
Yes.
It's already a year.
Yes.
How's the outcome? Like, how do you see the response even until now? Because especially now in Malaysia, we are slowly starting to go on ground again, maybe events happening soon again. But how do you see the idea of this frozen meal continuing even after we can do events and gatherings?
I think the idea is that's why we never did this thing where a lot of people will do when meal prep sort of thing, they will do it like, you know what, you get 20 meals. So our idea was never to do that. Our idea on the consumer end, a few different things that we want, right? We want the chefs to, no matter what, be able to earn something sustainably. So we want people to come and say that, you know, I commit to doing 20 meals. People in Malaysia are spoiled for food. Okay. If you tell them you have to eat something out of the box for 20 days in a row, nobody will buy. Right? That's why we made the quantity to like 3, 6, 9. If you really need 9 meals, you keep 9 meals. Like for me, I subscribe to 3 meals because there is some days where it is like complete chaos and I'm like, shit, I don't even have time to order from Grab. Right? I just want to go to my freezer, take something out and I'm done. Okay, that's all the time that I have. So those kind of days. So we want something that people can commit to. It's not too much of a burden on them. They don't have to think about how much of freezer space they have. For 3 meals, nothing, right? And in the same sense, it's more likely for someone to stay longer. I would rather have 500 people who contribute $60 every month and know that they want to stay here for as long as they can. Right? Yes, you have had a few moments. Like it just became like chaotic. So and we realized that this whole thing, it sort of works better during when it was like the half lockdown rather than the full lockdown. So when it came to the full lockdown period, people were just completely at home. So then they're like, okay, no, I have a bit more time to cook, a bit more time to do this and that and stuff like that. So the subscription levels dropped a bit, right? However, the best times were when people were still halfway going to the office, halfway at home, you know, that in-between stage where some nights you just want to eat out with friends, or the next day you're at home, but you've got no time to do groceries the day before, right? You're always in between somewhere. So that's when it does best. So like right now we see a sudden, like slowly people starting to come back on the whole thing because they know no time to go and buy groceries. I got no time. Like when I go to the office, I just want to bring one box with me and settle it. I don't feel like eating out with too many people, things like that. For many different reasons, it seems to work better in that in-between space for people. And we are also testing now more on the earlier idea where we had the frozen curries, gravies, and things like that. So now we're starting to slowly start pushing it out as well.
And I think it's a nice way to see it because I've known Picha for quite some time. Of course, before this, you guys have always been focused on B2B, and to do B2C stuff because you don't want to get the refugee family just to cook for one person, right?
Yeah.
I think this is like one option where now if you're from a corporate or big bulk order, go for the catering. But if you're a person, you just want to buy a simple meal for you or for your friends, then you can go for the frozen meals, right? I think that's quite interesting to see. But for you guys, like, how do you balance the quality? Have you heard? I mean, this is the last question from me. But in the sense of quality wise, right, for the food, in the last 1 year, have you heard any like kind of like feedback to say like, oh, the quality is not as good as it is? How do you tackle that kind of thing?
Do you mean across different product types or
Yeah.
across just in general, like?
Just generally based on the food that you guys selling.
Okay. Quality complaints, taste complaints sometimes it's there as with anything, but it's not comparatively higher, lower, or anything like that.
Okay.
Let's say like in a month there will be like you send out 150 orders, that is like 2 orders where the customer is like, oh my god, this was the worst thing, you don't know why I'm disappointed. It's a very normal thing to happen, right?
I mean, it's F&B, right? It's F&B.
Yeah, it's F&B. It's very
your
normal
favorite
thing.
restaurant will be like, the chef might have an off day. So
Yeah. Someone had an off day somewhere.
Yeah.
And I will not lie and say like we have 100% great record, blah, 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 blah. But what we do, I think, is what's more important here in these kind of situations where inevitably something could happen, like the chef accidentally put too much of salt or something like that. We always check in back with the chef, right? If customer says one thing, we always check in, because I think that at the end of the day, the trust that we have with the community is as important as the trust that we have with the customer, right?
Yeah.
As much as I want the customer to be happy, I also want my chefs to be happy. I also want to fulfill whatever we promise to them. And we always check in with them. And for all that trust that we have, they if something did go wrong on that day, if they face some problem, suddenly the UN called them, they were stressed out, something happened, and the day suddenly just lari a bit, went off a bit, something like that. So then we will be like, okay, you know what, we understand, but we do have a system that takes care of all these kind of things. Let's say, for example, there was a hair found in the food, like one strand of hair, there's like a 10% deduction, where there was like hygiene concerns and things like that. If it's purely on taste, we actually tell the client that if they complain early enough, like when they open, they see something is wrong, they complain early enough, we will tell you that, you know what, we will replace your meal. We will, if you want it on another day, we'll replace your meal, or we can add on more food for you if something wrong with the quantity. We see like what's best for that situation, but somehow or another, we will try to make it up.
Yeah. I mean, so that you're sure it's a food from Picha, not food suddenly they cook themselves, it's not good, and they say it's Picha's food, right?
Make sure we tell them that, make sure you got photos. Then if at all they're like, you know what, there are certain, there has been many cases where, because we supply a lot of Arabic food, right? The smell sometimes in some of the things, the spices, and people are not used to it, they think it's spoiled.
Yeah.
So they will immediately text and say like, you know what, this is sour, this smells spoiled. I was like, you know what, don't worry. It most likely, so far there's no problem. You can send it back to us, just send it back to whoever's house that is near. We will just try to make sure, and we'll be like, you know what, I ate it. If you want me to take a video, I can take a video of eating the stuff right now. It's fine, but these kind of situations, I will assure them, I'll tell them, I don't think it's spoiled. I will check the taste. If they're really not confident with it, I'll be like, you know what, send it back to us. We pay you back for that item. But we will not cut anything from the chef because we know it's perfectly fine. But over time, we don't see that anymore so much. I think I started getting used to it, because earlier in the days, I think even Arabic food wasn't something very common for a lot of people.
Yep.
Right. And across like now the 5 years been operating, I think Malaysians have also become a bit more authoritative, bit more,
There's more and more now, like mushroom.
More.
All right, cool. I know if you guys have more questions, we're gonna save it for the end at 6 o'clock. But just to recap on, in the case you guys missed out, so basically Picha is their F&B. Previously worked on catering. Basically, they partnered with refugee chef in Malaysia to bring amazing meals, any kind of like from Afghanistan, Palestine, and many more, while also providing access for refugees to earn sustainable income. So what challenges they face during COVID, right? Because they are mostly based on catering. So when there's no gathering, there's no event, so it's a tough time. And of course, with refugee, they don't have extra savings, right, to survive. So what they did is basically they create a frozen meal and a ready-to-eat meal subscription for individual and family consumption. If you're in Malaysia, Logita just now leave a link. Don't forget, you can click straight away buy now and you can order for next week. So results of the people, I think, as we share, the best thing is that I think what I love the most, even though during this pandemic, when even the big companies are laying off their employee, Pizza managed to maintain both sides. They maintain the plus minus 15 families that they have, and also they maintain the team, because that's what they try to help. So basically, they managed to survive. In fact, now they have 2 customer segments. They started with 1, and now the pandemic happening, and of course now everyone's slowly getting back to normal. Now they have both consumer target market to work with, right? So I know Logita might have more to say, but right now, thank you, Logita, for your sharing. We'll talk again at 6 o'clock for the Q&A. Any last words for Logita before I pass to next person? No?
I'm good. Anyone has any questions that you can just ask me later or drop in the chat. Yep.
Yeah, drop in the chat. We have a live answering machine here from Logita, right? So now I'd like to pass to Wayne again, Wayne, the current Wayne, to have a chat with I'm So Ing.
Thanks, Reza. I have to say, I actually miss PizzaEats food. I have had it before. This is at least 2-3 years ago, and I have to say I was very impressed, right? Because I think the food that you serve, you cannot actually find it so easily. I think I had Afghan and Syrian food, if I remember correctly. So very interesting. For those of you in Malaysia, do check them out. I wish I can order it. I wish I can order it sitting in Singapore, but sounds like I might be able to order it for some of my relatives sitting in other parts of Malaysia now. So thank you so much for the sharing. Next up, if you were paying attention just now at the recording, you may see that at the studio recording, we actually had another lady sitting beside me, and coincidentally, she is now live with me. So I assure you, Michelle is not a recording; she's a real person. So very warm welcome to Michelle, founder of I'm So Ing. Okay, Michelle, tell us a little bit more about I'm So Ing. I mean, the name of the company is quite interesting. So what's it all about?
Well, we actually use music and technology, but it is not, we're like not a music shop. We're not, and we're not a technology shop. We're actually about nourishing the soul. And it's all about like getting people in terms of their health. It could be mental, physical, emotional, and happiness. And the main thing is that when we started, a lot of people think, hey, so do you cure dementia, or do you cure this or cure that? And we were like, no, we don't. We actually just use the power of music, which is very holistic and all that, and tap that, but then giving it access to everyone. And that's why the I'm So Ing, the ink stands for inclusive, not incorporated.
Ah, that's an interesting one. Couldn't help.
Yeah. So really it's about the soul, and it's about giving access to music to everybody, to everyone, so that everyone can tap that. It's non-drugs. You can be happy, and when you're happy, laughter is the best medicine. So believe in some simple things like that, then that's what we do. I think maybe we have a video, so the video probably will best show how we do it, and then we can talk about
that would be best, because I'm really curious, like how do you use music to nourish the soul? So if we can have the video up.
Yes.
Music has such therapeutic power, and yet it is so undertapped. When I found out about music technology, I immediately thought of my father. He used to play the erhu, but at 55, when he had the stroke, it was half the person he used to be. And I wish I could engage him to help him recover. Many people couldn't read the notes, or because of disability and old age, they couldn't hold the instrument. And that's where technology comes in. I wanted to allow everyone to have access to music, to be able to make music, not just listen, because listening is not as powerful as creating. Running a startup is never easy. We wanted something that is sustainable, and being able to have the network and platforms that DBS has given us was a tremendous help.
I enjoy the music, the dance. 好啊，老人家来消遣啊。
When words fail, music speaks. You see people who have Parkinson's being able to move well, people making friends. We want to create inclusive communities. If Dad is still around, he will be very proud. I know he is.
Wow, that's really amazing. So Michelle, you have to share with us a little bit, because I saw the person waving their hand a little bit, and suddenly, like magic, I hear some music being played. So how does the whole thing actually work?
So actually the story started when I sort of went to the UK, and I saw this picture of a girl who had injured her spine. And so she could only move her head. And just by moving her head, that movement was translated into music. Just move, so you don't need to read notes or even have a musical background. All you have to do is move, even if it's a tiny movement or a big movement. It's translated into music, and she was playing Bach on the cello, like she can't hold the cello. So I immediately thought of, like I said, my dad, who had a stroke and was half paralyzed, and realized that this motion sensor technology actually overcomes all the challenges people have to play musical instruments. Many people can't do it because they couldn't read the notes, they couldn't hold the instrument, it was too expensive. French horn would cost like $15,000, or they didn't want to spend 6 months horrifying everybody with terrible music before we get to the good part, or gave up somewhere. Somewhere along the line, many people have musicality, but couldn't tap the healing power of music to be able to de-stress, to be able to be more creative. And then they come up with excuses like, oh, I'm not creative. Oh, I can't do this. Oh, I'm not this, I'm not that. And actually they can, if they have the means to enable them to do so. So that was the first thing. The second thing was that then I started learning about neuroscience, about how important music was. It can even awake people from coma. It could help people who were with Parkinson's, if they were trembling. By bypassing the prefrontal lobe, music can actually get them to defreeze and then de-stress and then get back to their movements. So dementia, I have seen people who have lights out, and then by playing the music that resonates, their lucidity came back, they were able to do things. And we all cry a lot throughout this whenever we see someone immediately coming back. So over the last 8 years, we've actually used this music and the technology to enable people to reach out to, as you can see in the video, people who have the disability. Like the lady, if you see in a wheelchair, she has dementia. Her husband had a stroke, and they joined that session every week with their helper. And so they were singing songs and they're dancing, they're remembering things. So that's what we do. We bring happiness, wellness, and we created something called making music, which means that we don't just sing or dance or play musical instruments, but we've created this innovative program that gives this uplifting experience, so that where a normal, maybe a karaoke session didn't quite give the spark, ours would you get that reaction and response.
And they are able to play together collaboratively. Right?
Collaboratively, like an orchestra or an ensemble, and not just one instrument, any instrument you like in any language that you like. So we started singing in Hokkien, or in Hong Kong Chinese opera, or in Sitra, anything. That has actually opened the whole new world of possibilities to people.
Oh, so that's amazing. So you have a technology that can convert movement into music via sensors, and which means that people who have physical disabilities can now make music, and more importantly, they can make music collaboratively. So for those of us,
not just physical disabilities, it's actually even for people who are totally able, because the whole idea it is about like the caregiver with the person, you know, with their loved ones.
Right.
It is never about like, well, I will play because I'm able and you listen and clap. It's always about this total participation that really makes a difference.
this is amazing. Yeah, for those of you guys who have done choirs or played in bands before, you know that there's something when you play together, right? And of course, the power of music making. Well, that's the reason why people pay money to go to karaoke and do it together. So imagine being able to do all of that, but translating that to include people who have some form of disabilities. I think that's really, really powerful. So Michelle, you definitely have a very cool technology, a cool service, a very cool offering, right? But how does your business model actually work?
Well, when we started, because the technology was a bit on the high end, you know, although compared to musical instruments, it's actually not expensive, you know, so it's a few $1,000s. We went therefore to B2B. We were selling to businesses. We were selling to nursing homes, to daycare centers, to hospitals. We trained their therapists. And so there are hospitals that say, wow, this means that I can actually give my patients and my beneficiaries access to engagement and not just have to wait for a music therapist. So in a sense, we democratize the access to music. So they could actually be more productive because they are speech therapists, occupational therapists, physiotherapists, all were able, and their aides will all be able to use music for engagement, not just wait for a music therapist. That one is, the waiting line is very long, very, very long. In Singapore, there are only about 20, 30 music therapists, certified music therapists.
Okay. So given that what I was seeing in your videos, a lot of these are done in very community kind of setting.
Yes.
So how has COVID changed everything for you?
Oh, everything. Changed everything. Something like PizzaEats, it was like our revenue just went just down because community closed. We weren't allowed to get into the hospitals or the daycare centers. The elderly who were attending those centers, let's say they stay at home and they go, they were not allowed to go out. So they were confined and isolated at home. The ones who are in residential homes, they even have like individual floors or no intermingling. So no one was able to have any music session. And even no singing allowed at one point, no nothing. So it was like, it just stopped. It just stopped dead in its tracks, you know. I think I withdrew into depression at one point because we draw so much energy from those sessions ourselves, as much as we give the energy and the joy. So we actually really like, boom, it's like a balloon burst. We couldn't do anything.
So you lost your own self-therapy as well.
Yeah, yes. It was kind of like that, yeah.
So what happened then? What do you guys do?
Then, of course, normal. When the market slowly opened, allowed us to go out, we basically tried some online and all. But really, the essence of the work we do is really high touch, human connection. And so without that, that element there, it was online exercise and all, but it just doesn't quite make it as the togetherness. Unless we get these sets into homes. That's when we started thinking, how do we get these sets into homes? Because the people cannot leave their homes to go to the daycare center. So the isolation is inside the home. And that's when I started thinking, actually, that was when my father started. He was at home.
So you start thinking of moving from daycare centers, more community kind of settings, maybe even hospitals, start and start thinking homes.
Yes, so it's B2C, how to go back to really where people were lonely and isolated. It was even more. So we tried out, and then at the beginning of the year, we did a pilot launch, helped by the Singapore Kindness Movement. And we said, families, if you have elderly and all, or people with disabilities, and you needed us to come in, let us know. So we tried out, we were successful. And so recently we then launched it to sort of a bigger market. And we came up with a campaign called 5+1 Family, Happy Families. We called out to caregivers, if you have an elderly at home, someone with, people who needs that. And some of them said, I'm my mom, nothing wrong with her, just very sad, just very lonely, getting very quiet. Others would be like, we've got, my mom has dementia, my sister, had a stroke, my brother has Down syndrome, can you come? Can you come to our home? So we went, and it's been really successful. And what we do, our pledge is that for every 5 families that we serve for a fee, we will do one for a poor family who cannot afford it. So that fits our social enterprise mission, that we were actually generating income. And then we encourage those people who are paying us to say, pay more so that we can actually then serve a poor family. And most of them have been very generous.
Wow, that's amazing. So not just extending this to people who can afford to pay, but collectively you get them to split the bill in some sense to sponsor or co-sponsor someone who probably needs this but cannot afford to pay.
Yes.
That's a very interesting way of doing things. So just curious, Michelle, so this home invasion thing that you're doing, how has the results been? I mean, how have your clients benefited? How have they reacted or responded to your new service offering? I'm just curious to know.
Actually, it really, really opened many of our eyes as well. We went to one family where 2 sisters, son, and then the mom. And she was the one with the mom, nothing wrong with her. They are from a well-to-do family, landed property, double story, they could afford it. But the mom goes to daycare and all, but she's still very lonely, and they're desperately looking for programs that would engage her. And basically our proposition to her was that it's not just her, it is the ability for you guys as a family to do something together with her. Not for her, with her. So the 2 sisters, and they were then the helpers, they were all dancing and singing, and the old lady was therefore enjoying herself and all that. And they noticed that she was not spitting, because usually when she just spits, she didn't spit for the whole hour. She was happy. She kept asking us to come back, and then the family said, oh, you know what you do? I see many of the other elderly with their helpers in the park. Do you think you could come back and I'll gather all the families along my street, and then you can do this for us? And we said, not now, because lockdown, not now, but this is where the dream for us is, that we go into every single family, and then we can create these music hubs, have a music making street, have a music making park, where people congregate and make music together, and not just radio music, they create the music.
Got it.
It's not just play from the video and everybody's dancing to it. It's they participate in creating the music, and the whole family can join in. And you can see from my video, the kids are there, grandma, grandpa, everybody is there.
So how does this pivot, aside from offering new, or rather expanding your client base and helping more people, how has that actually helped you and your team so far?
What it also allows us to do is that I think I'm able now to gather very good data, because I go into individual families. And that data is rich. And it's families who are making music, participating together. So you don't get too many circumstances or situations where you're allowed to go within a family and then kind of engage them and collect data.
I see.
That is itself is very rich, and it gives us a huge opportunity to really understand the kind of loneliness or the kind of health issues and family considerations for the caregivers. So we've started therefore working with other caregiver organizations and say, hey, how can we also collaborate so that we can actually truly serve the families? In Singapore, the government is encouraging aging in place, which means that, you know, they encourage them not to go to the hospitals and stay at home. And as long as that trend continues, we need to be able to create programs that would really satisfy everyone at home and engage. And there aren't many. There aren't many. So I've got testimonials saying, my mom has hearing impairment, she's become depressed, but that Sunday, instead of just eating or watching TV, we really had so much, you know, fun. And I've never seen my mom laugh so much for many, many months. And I think to us, that's priceless. And then the information collected, kind of challenges, eventually we would be able to mine this information and really be able to serve better. So that's where it has helped us to pivot to consumer, but to really get even closer to helping people in terms of accessing music.
Thanks for sharing, Michelle. I'm sure the audience will have more questions for you, but I think we will have to, you can, if you have any questions for Michelle, you can either type it in the chat, or you can save some of your questions to ask Michelle at the live Q&A. So just to summarize a little bit.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Michelle, you're saying something?
I think it's there you will be able to summarize.
Yes. So in summary, I'm Soul Ing is a unique service provider that can translate motion into music, and it actually helps to energize people, connect with people through music making, especially the people who with disabilities. And the key word that Michelle keep using is making music with, not to, right? And I think as you can also see, because this is a very high touch service delivery model during this lockdown period, pretty much the entire original business model, the service delivery just kind of came to a halt, and revenue dropped drastically. However, they pivoted from the B2B more at the service provider to the daycare, to the hospitals, back directly to families and homes. And they actually also launched a very unique 5+1. For every 5 customers that can afford to pay them, they have the option to co-sponsor another family that could benefit from this service but cannot afford to pay. And I understand from Michelle offline that sales from 2020 dropped a lot compared to 2019, but because of all this innovative pivoting, the sales kind of doubled, almost doubled actually for this year, and we hope it continues to double. The team is a lot more positive, is a more resilient, and as what Michelle also mentioned, they have a lot more insights and data collection, being able to go into the houses, the homes of their clients directly. So now they have first-hand information. So thank you very much, Michelle.
We haven't actually stopped our B2B. Our hospitals and our daycares and all the charities are actually calling again. We're still doing that. It's not like we pivoted and don't do that anymore. That continues. We've actually expanded into a new market segment, and now together, it's actually the complete value chain, from the healthcare to, you know, the community care and to the home care.
And that's the best position to be in, right? You expanded a new market. The other one is pretty much still incubating or re-incubating because of COVID-19 restrictions. And when the market reopens up again, then hopefully, you know, it's boomtown for everyone.
It's actually, hopefully, we already have the contracts. We just have to start, restart.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, so with that, now we'll hand the time over to Da from SE Thailand to hear a little bit more about the sharing from local alike from Amy. So over to you, Da.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you, TBN Asia, so much for having me, and also Amy from Local Alike here today. So before going into the questions, I would like to introduce Amy a bit. So Amy is the Chief Financial Officer of Local Alike from Thailand, a very famous social enterprises here. So Amy, my first question is actually for you to tell us a little bit about Loco, like the social problem you have been addressing and your business model and also your impact before the COVID-19.
Hi, Kanda. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Amy. I'm from Local, like that said. So we are a social enterprise that focus on the local community development. So we've been working for almost like 10 years now in Thailand. So we work with about 160 local communities, building all these travel routes and helping, connecting the travelers to the local communities in the different parts of Thailand. So for our business model is basically we have like different type of business models. So let me first connect the first part. So the community development part, we would go into the local community and we would work with them to make sure that they understand how the tourism works. And then we would try to make sure that they understand, how things would be created, and then try to make them understand how the marketing works and creating all these new routes to connect to make sure that all these new routes can be sold to the customers. So that's the main part of our business models. But basically we work with a lot of government agencies as well, because a lot of fundings that this kind of things are coming from the Thai government agencies in Thailand. So that's how we get most of our funding to do the development work. But after we do the development work, we get the end product. So after we get the end product, we sell it to like the B2B and B2C market. So that's basically what our business model is at the moment.
Yeah, and I'm very interested actually in your name, Loco Alike. Can you tell us why is it called Loco Alike? What's the meaning behind it?
Because we believe that, when you travel, you want to connect with the local. It's just going to be, when you go to certain places, the way that, people feel connected to the place is not just because you went to, like the Eiffel Tower or Paris, you connected to the people as well. So that's why, we think that the meaningful experience is through the connecting to the local people. And that's because of that, the name Local is created. So, it's through our connection with the local people. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, in a sense, you're trying to kind of capture the tourism boom in Thailand and make the most for the community to not only like the 5-star hotels and tourist attractions. Am I right?
Yeah. So when Local was first created, Kun Pai, which is our founder and CEO, he saw the opportunity and he saw that, the economic opportunity that the tourism has been created in Thailand, it has created tremendous impact, throughout the country, but the local communities kind of been left out. So that's why, the idea of Local is to make sure that local community has kind of able to get this kind of equal opportunity in terms of economic, through tourism. So that's why we want to make sure that, certain percentage of the GDP that is going to, from the tourism, also going to the local communities as well. So that's why we created these models. Yeah.
Great. So your business side relied heavily on tourism, and we all know like tourism in Thailand has been hit hardest by COVID-19. Could you share with us what exactly were the effects on your business?
I think we are just as shocked as most people in the world when COVID hit, because we really affected greatly because of the tourism industry has been hit almost the hardest among all the industries. I'd say right now it's still not really recovering at the moment, but because we work with a lot of government agencies, so we kind of shift our focus pretty fast. Basically during 2020, we also created two new business models, which is local a lot and local array, which is basically the idea is, before COVID, we want to bring the people to the local communities, to make that connection and meaningful experience. But, during the COVID, so we have this idea of if, the people cannot go to the local communities, we can bring, what's, meaningful in the local communities outside to the public. So we created, local a lot and local array, which is to bring like all these wonderful recipes and the craft and products that the local communities have to offer into the public. That's why we created these models, which actually have been really quite positive because people really love, a lot of Thai people, I think in the past, a lot of people have traveled abroad, but now because of the COVID situation, which has been a year now, people kind of, before the third wave of the COVID hit in Thailand, the second part of 2020, people kind of were able to travel around the country a little bit more than right now. So I think people, Thai people ourselves were able to travel more domestically and kind of enjoy more of, the scenery or some of the stuff in our own countries that, that Thai people would probably never experience before, because of they go outside the country. So because of that, we were able to sell capture some of the new customers in Thailand, and we discover some kind of new market, for like the younger generation, not the younger, like the Y generation, which is, who loves kind of the nature travel, so this new routes of travel that we discover in the province in the southern part of Thailand, which is like a beautiful like Amazon jungle of the Asia, that you can walk through the forest, and people really love that, and pretty much you can't really go there by yourself without a tour guide. So people really kind of feel like connected to the nature, and we think that it's a really great way. But because of the CBT is run by the local community, we also want to make sure that we want to limit the number of the tourists, not to have like too much tourists into one area, because we don't want to destroy the environment and want to make sure that everything in the nature, is kind of remain intact.
Okay, so I believe like in this room, there are also participants from Singapore, Malaysia too. Just to give you a little bit of context, so Aroy actually means delicious in Thailand, in Thai language. So maybe Amy, can you get a little bit details for us on your transformation from local alike as a tourist destinations, and then pivoting it to local Aroy and local a lot? What is the two things here? Is it your new business units, or what actually the two new brand, what is it? What are they?
Well, when we first launched, we have local, when we first launched, we were just focusing on the tourist and tourism industry, but with local Aroy and local a lot, we kind of also imagine that it would probably create more impact for the local communities as well, because they have other things to offer besides the travel routes that they have in the area, but they have the food, the recipes, all the local craft, that people really love. So that's why we created these two new business models, which have been very quite positive, because we discovered that people really love this new ideas of like the local community package, like all the premium gift that we have created, and that's actually kind of also been kind of our part of our life lab as well during COVID, because the revenue from basically our tourism have dropped like basically zero. So that's really hitting us hard. And because of all the governmental projects that we are doing, we also can't go into the areas because of COVID. So everything has to basically be done like online. We kind of have to find a way to survive basically. But our survival also means like, also helping like the local communities as well, because they rely on us to help them with the marketing channels, to help them, like basically we help them and also they help us as well, because without them, we probably won't get through it, all this pandemic. Like that said, like with local, all right, for example, we actually brought like the local chef from like the local area into the cities. And then we would create like, for example, like a dining experience, and the people in the cities, if you can't really travel to the actual province, you can go to the event and you can, try like this wonderful like recipe from the like really somewhere that you have to travel maybe like 8 hours, through the plane and the train or the bus. But now it's kind of like, we bringing that authentic and the dining experience to the city. And I think it's been quite positive for the feedbacks that we received from a lot of people. It's just right now because of COVID hitting us again, so we kind of slowing down on that. But once the COVID, once everybody start to get vaccinated, we think that we can bring those events back again to the city. Yeah.
Okay, so like through Local Alloy, we actually have the local chef table in Bangkok.
Yeah.
And so for Local Alloy, what has been like most your best selling things on Local Alloy?
Actually, the best selling thing for us on Local Alloy is more like the whole thing of a little bit of things, because actually Local Alloy is like a lot of little things, right, from the local communities. And but the things that people really love, that we kind of look at it as our hero product, is our like the garland. I don't have the picture right now, but it's the garland made with the local cloth that people really love it. You can give it as a gift to your parents, on the Mother's Day or Father's Day. So people really love that. It's kind of like a combination of like good design and, kind of have the local element as well. So people really love it. But we also want to take Local a lot into like kind of different models as well, because we realize that, with the local communities, the production is quite limited. So we have to basically gather a lot of things from different communities and kind of put it together into the package and sell it, as different communities into like one group of like a basket of different things. And then we sell it to the corporate customers, which has been really quite successful. People really love the idea of getting these, little things from like all these communities around the country.
Okay, so going a little bit back before COVID-19, can you give us a little bit more background on the nature of your customers? Like, what's the percentage of the B2C in terms of like the tour, and then what's the proportion of your B2B customer?
Well, before COVID, the percentage of our revenue is mostly still from like governmental projects. So that's maybe around like 60%, and the tour, and which is from the B2B, which is like all the CSR projects, and would be accounted for about like 20%. So I would say the rest is B2C, which is from like all the FIT, all the individual travelers who coming to Thailand. So now it's kind of shifting in 2020, that percentage kind of shifted a little bit. We actually increased B2B more because of all the premium gifts that we sell to all the different customers. And then we kind of, keep the same amount of revenue from the governmental agencies. And so that's also the strategy continue into this year. But we kind of realized that with the direction that the country is going, we want to keep going with the new business model. So we want to focus more on the next couple of years as well on on the governmental projects that related to like the product design, that's kind of bring out this different things from the local communities and to make sure that they maybe get redesigned or repackaged. All of things they can sell it at the more valuable price or at a different the right portion, because it's also really important.
So for the B2B, you were pivoting in terms of like doing more consultancy services for the government. Am I correct?
Yeah, for the B2G, yes, we do more like consultancy to the government. Different governmental agencies has also contacted us because of our expertise in the local community development. So that's what is basically the main part of our revenue. And but we also have a different type of work as well, which is we used to do like event, which is now we kind of develop our event into like more like online. So everything is online at the moment. So we kind of, because of COVID, we also kind of learn together with the local communities as well. And if they don't know, we'll teach them how to use like Zoom or all these things, and which is now all the local communities can do like live, for example, like live from this community. And I think it's really exciting that that the people from the local community can adapt also like quickly to the change because of COVID. And for the B2B part, like I said, it's a lot of revenues coming from the premium gift, which is still quite a big part of our revenue, which we also want to keep streaming from this part as well, because we think there's also quite a good demand from the market.
Okay, so this is probably the second last question. I have like the highlight one in the end. So what are the results from all the efforts in pivoting your business models?
Well, I think it's been good. In 2020, we actually ended with positive note, which is quite really
rare for the people in tourism. Yeah.
Positive note. And actually our revenue has increased from comparing to 2019 as well.
Wow.
Quite a lot actually. Yeah. So it's been good, from launching all these business models. The team has been working very hard. I think it's been, the effort has been really paying off. Although we have to say, like in 2021 is kind of harder than 2020, but we kind of will try to keep going with all these new things going on. So yeah, I think we ending we keep going on a positive note at the moment. Yeah, we end with a good momentum.
Okay, so I think like a lot of enterprises, also SMEs, especially those in the tourism industry, some of them choose to kind of wait and see, like stop their operations and then wait until the economy is back. You choose to pivot your model, and actually it was quite successful. So do you have any tips, or like what is your key success factor in your pivoting journey? Like you wouldn't be able to have done it without this.
Yeah, well, we think that the most important thing is basically because we got really good support from the local communities that we've been working with for the past 10 years, because really without them, we wouldn't be able to do, or be where we are right now because of all the support that we have from them too. But also because of the team, I think, we have to like thank the team, the team that also like don't give up, because the pandemic, you just can't just stop, because life goes on, maybe, kind of in shock, maybe you kind of stop for like maybe 2-3 months, but, we can't stop like that, we have to keep going. So I think probably the best thing to describe is probably agility. You have to be agile, you have to be flexible in order to, adjust to the new normal and then just keep going and basically just have a lot of energy because it's a lot of hard work, sleepless nights, but at the end of the day, you kind of be proud because you're the one who like, hey, we did it, we passed through the pandemic, and actually because of that, the team members also like grew strong together. They kind of passed through this tough time together, so they kind of have really good positive like outcome, and the teams kind of celebrate together. So that I think that's a success. The key success factor is to make sure that your team knows that at the end of the day, we go through it together, and then we kind of celebrate the victory together as well.
Thank you so much. That was a very inspiring story. So maybe in ending this conversation, I would just give a little bit conclusion on what we've been discussing. So Local Like is a tourism community-based tourism agency that empowers local community by through their consultation services and also tour operations and helping connecting travelers with the local communities. So the challenges from COVID-19 was actually in 2020, they lost all income and the revenue has dropped more than 10 million baht. And how they pivots their business is through creating new business units called Local Arroy, bringing the food and recipes from local communities to the urban market and local a lot, where they add value to local products and help them sell in the market, especially in the form of corporate gifts, and also extended the consulting service to governmental agencies. So they're becoming the vendor supplier for government projects and service, and also trying to capture more domestic tourism market too. And the results was actually they were able to maintain a positive bottom line in 2020, which is quite rare for the tourism SMEs here in Thailand, and a lot of positive feedback from the communities and customers on the new business model too. And they were able to identify new services for governmental agencies and getting demand for that consultancy services. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the chat box. Thank you very much. Thank you, Emmy, too.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Amy. Appreciate and all the other panelists and their moderators. Thank you so much for sharing so openly about your journey. So I've got a couple of questions. I haven't seen many coming through the chat, but that's fine. The first one is actually a lot of the times when we listen to businesses and they're like, oh, are you B2C? Are you B2B? There's like easy parts about the model when you're selling to businesses, but longer sales timing. And then B2C is just really hard. Like, how do you reach out to your customers? How do you find them? So I guess two of the businesses in here have pivoted from B2B and then going to B2C. And that's a very different approach. So maybe I'll start with Lagitha in just PizzaEats. How did you find that transition and what did you have to quickly learn to find the customers?
In a way, we were catering to B2Cs, just larger sort of events and things like that. So the transition was more of really nailing down the marketing, right? Because like when it comes to B2B, it's very much more sales focused, like human interaction. You go there, you send a meal to them, let them try out, like you said, longer sales cycle. But when it comes to B2C, it's like if your marketing doesn't work, you can't work. And in a pandemic, you can't be outside. You can't do like booths outside. You can't meet people in the malls. You can't talk to people anymore. So everything went to like ad spend, really understanding your consumer, really knowing where they come from. And it's very easy to say like, you know what, dump all the money in ads, but that's also not going to work. You just end up wasting money, right? So you really need to know why they're buying from you. You really need to know things like, what do they feel when they eat their food? What's your customer profile like? If you don't have information like this, I would say go and ask the people who are buying from you. Talk to them. We talk to them a lot, right? And from there, we started really being able to push through for the B2C.
And in terms of the first-time customers and repeat customers, did you find it harder to acquire the first-time customers or getting them to repeat buy?
I think it's harder the first time.
Okay, so once you're in the door, you're in.
Then it's like, okay, it's more like retention, making sure they usually, like even on the B2C side, right? They come back, like if there are people who always buy for Christmas, they come back for Christmas or like one of the festivities. It's more like that kind of cycle. And then sometimes they come back for birthdays. Sometimes they're like, you know what, I got bored of, like, I don't want to go outside and eat. I'm just going to buy pizza food for like a very random dinner just with 5 people at home. Yeah. But it's getting in the first time and then harder. But for B2Bs, I would say it's as hard to keep them as it is to get them. It's the same. Like, but the B2C is a bit easier once you get them in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, frozen meals, I mean, I'm from Australia and frozen meals are so popular. A lot of people do it. It's kind of really normal for us to get frozen meals, bring it to work. It just saves time and it's so cheaper. So I think it'll catch on. I reckon there'll be more.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But here there's a lot of people like completely like, oh my God, frozen meals, it's terrible for you. It's unhealthy. It's But I think it will eventually, right? Like in a year or two, people will start seeing that it's actually quite easy to have it. Like even for me, I like to, and I still get like 3 meals, 4 meals, just because there's days I don't want to grab, I don't want to cook, I don't want to do anything like a normal person.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you for sharing. So I'm going to go to Michelle. It's the same thing for you in terms of going from working with hospitals and nursing homes to then going direct. How was that transition for you?
Similar for Logita. It was like we were initially talking to the management, the therapists, the healthcare professionals, and so they were looking for holistic programs for engagement. And then so we were training professionals to train, the beneficiaries. We go in, of course, with them. But when you go to B2C, you really have to understand the dynamics within every family. So it's no longer a few of us going to 50 people or 20 or 30 people, but it's like maybe one person going into a family now, 5 people, no more than that kind of thing. And really then knowing it, you got to sort of hit it or miss it, right? And that's
one shot.
One shot. That's the one shot you have. Whereas with the usually with our corporate clients, we get institutional clients, we get a contract. A contract for 2 years. You go in for 5 dementia wards. You go in every week. So you have time to build rapport. You have time to get people in. This one is one shot. You get it, then you have repeat. If not, that's it. And so the quality of our person going in becomes even more critical. It's because what we do is not just sing and dance, and it's not like that. It's about really engaging the family and then getting them to participate. So that human dynamics and understanding of what goes on. So now I'm really calling out to caregivers. I found that there is a pool of caregivers out there who I've taken care of my mom, and she's passed away, from dementia, but now I have all this caregiving experience and I really know how much she loves music and we love music. But I wish I knew what you're doing now like, when my mom was alive. So that kind of thing, they make very good quality trainers. So it has actually opened my eyes to know that we actually don't need musicians or healthcare. We're needing people with a heart who knows how to care. And then we just empower them to make music for themselves. They learn the new skill and they can now then bring it out to other families. So it's like really lighting, sparking one candle, and then they can go and light all the others. So that has been the difference in terms of like you go for one big client. This one is like you light little candles and then let them hopefully ripple out.
Yeah, and I like that how like because of the pandemic, you've actually found a new group of people that you can work with and who can be part of the business, where otherwise you may not have stumbled upon them or seen it. And I guess I'm going to go to Amy, because we're just talking about stakeholders here and even like how do we work with different groups of people. One thing I picked up when you were sharing was about actually balancing going into the local communities and doing all the tourism and getting the people in, but then balancing the environment and not wanting to destroy the environment and being really conscious. But then you have needs, you need to make business, you need to make money. So how do you balance kind of those two things when you have to do, to be really conscious, but also deliver the bottom line and make revenue and survive?
Well, from the tour side, let me give you an example then. From one area, it's actually we would work with the local communities. So we want to make sure that, not too many tourists would go into the area that would create like environmental problem for them, like garbage problem or all these, different kind of problems that created from like tourism that has been destroying many areas in the world, basically. So we would work with the local communities and ask them like how much can they actually manage and the number of tourists. So we want basically bring in like 100 people into like little small village, because that would really destroy them. But we would bring in like little group of like 20, and then we would also focus on like the people who also want to do like CSR stuff. So some tourists, they want to go into like a certain areas and they want to help with the environment, like for some example, like communities around like the ocean. So some of the divers, they like to go to the area and they dive into the ocean, right, to pick up garbages. And that's actually like really like meaningful as a divers as well, because most of the divers love ocean. It's something that it's just embedded. I'm a diver also, so that's just something that you don't want to destroy this beautiful ocean. So we want to make sure that when you go into like different areas, we want to make sure that you preserve that for other people. So we I think our key point is to make sure that we limit the number of people to go into the area, and we educate the local communities to make sure that if you want to be able to use and these natural resources in the long term, you also have to preserve them, because otherwise you won't have this in the future.
Yeah, I'm hearing from all three that this period has really made everyone really engage your stakeholders, really understand them, talk to them, whether it be your new customers, your current customers, beneficiaries. I'm just hearing that it's been a lot of like kind of being on the ground and listening, which I absolutely love, because I think it's forced all of us to slow down and really listen, and then to see how we can serve better as well. We only have, I would say, like kind of 5 more minutes. So I'm going to have just one more question. So for those who are the founders of the business, or you've been there since the beginning, what is harder, starting the business or pivoting? So out of all three, go ahead. I'm not going to arrow anyone. Okay, Michelle, since you're laughing, go ahead.
Actually, when I was invited to speak, and I was telling Wayne, I said, I don't think I'm qualified to be part of the panel for thriving, because we are, it's like life, isn't it? Every juncture, the wave comes. It doesn't ever stop. And I guess whether you're a business or a social enterprise, the key word is resilience. It's always like, don't, and for myself, I always say, this too shall pass. You know, it's kind of like when you're down, things will have to go up. When you're up, don't think that it will stay up forever, you know. So as long as we are prepared to keep on pivoting, and it's not like which is harder, it's just a journey. We just have to move on.
That's a very diplomatic and a very wise answer, Michelle. But it's true. It's very, very true. How about Lageetha? Any thoughts about that? Like how long, I'm not sure if you were there right at the beginning, but from what you observe, has it been easier to start or pivot?
I guess in the beginning, like the first 2 years, like nothing much, but I was one of the first full-time sort of members as things started picking up, right? So I was there as almost in the beginning, and then right in the midst of the whole pivot thing going on. I will say that it's very different sort of stress and fear and challenges. Like in the beginning, you have no idea what the hell you're doing, right? And then suddenly now you feel like you know what the hell you're doing, and then you don't know it again.
Exactly.
That's exactly what happened.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, you know what, we know what we're doing. All right, next is gonna be great. Oh, bam, bam. Oh, wait. How do we do this again? That's the whole thing. But I think from beginning to now, the bigger challenge comes because the team has also grown, right? So now there's like more people to take care of emotionally, mentally, performance-wise. It's not just like there were 4 of us in the beginning or 5 of us. We all just did everything and it was done, right? So now it's like there's 10 full-timers plus 5 more interns, and like 15, 16 people at any one given time just in the office team alone. So there's like a bigger team to manage, bigger set of problems in that sense as well. So yeah, it's different. Yeah.
In a way, does it make it feel like the stakes are higher? Because right at the beginning, there's not much, in a way, not much to lose, or there's nothing at stake. You're not responsible for so many people. So in a way, it is a lot more stressful, right? Like when you have
there's more chefs, more team members. Yeah, so the stress is quite different, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing. Amy, how about you?
I have to say I wasn't, at local like when local like started, so I can't say how hard it was, but from what I listened to Pai, it was basically for him, it was just knocking on doors, just try to make people believe that this idea was working. So I think that was a challenging time, a different challenging time for local. But during this pivoting time, I think it's the same with what Michelle and Lageetha said. It's just, so you kind of proven that, what you believe that is going to work, now it works. And now, is it going to work in the future? Not sure, how to rethink, maybe pivoting and doing different things. So, it's kind of have to make you rethink of everything. But I think, at the end of the day, if we kind of keep ourselves kind of humble and, make sure that we kind of flexible and, kind of go with the flow and don't get too crazy. I think, just keep ourselves sane because otherwise, get too stressed out and then, you kind of just stop, right? Because if you get too stressed out, you can't think of new things that, it could be new opportunities, during this crisis time. So in order to keep the sanity, I think that's really important. To answer your questions, what's more important, I'm not sure, what's crazier, but with this COVID time, I think the whole world is kind of really difficult for everyone. Yeah.
May I add something? May I add something?
Sure.
I think we also have to, whilst we tell ourselves we must keep positive, we must do this, do that, and we cannot go down. I actually think that sometimes as founders, like in any, we actually have to accept that we ourselves sometimes need that tender loving care. We ourselves are really on the floor. And sometimes there is just so much like worry that you have to just be on the floor for a little while and just take that breather. If you keep on trying to like stay up, we probably like will wind ourselves a bit crazy at the end of the day and not get there. So be prepared to accept that it will be very hard sometimes, and it's this too shall pass. That's all. That's all. And cry and cry and cry, and it's okay. And it's okay to do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I think just from that last question, what I picked up is basically at this time testing all your assumptions again. And really revisiting it. But the second thing when Michelle just spoke, I'm sure a lot of people will know that it's World Mental Health Day on Sunday coming up. So I think that's a really important topic just to discuss and to acknowledge that, yes, we're all struggling. And I think the pressure on founders is incredible, especially when you're the head of the business and you're responsible for people's livelihoods. It is a very big responsibility, and the founders and the owners of the business are always the last to get paid. You know, you're worried about whether there's enough money to pay everyone else, to make sure that they can feed their families, you know, they can take care of their expenses, and then you take care of yourself. So self-love and self-care actually at this time, and having a tribe or people around you to support you, and even just to take a breather. And like Michelle said, have a cry, you know, have a lie down. It's okay. I think that's just so important now, because I feel like the pandemic's prolonged longer than a lot of us expected, and it's taking a toll. So I love that we kind of ended on that. So thank you, Michelle, for sharing that. And I'm going to pass it over to Wayne. Wayne's made some really great observations as well, and then he's going to close out the session. Thank you to all the founders and moderators.
Thanks, Ren. Great questions, by the way. I really love the choice of questions. The last one is really, really hard, I have to say. I was thinking, which one is harder? I'm inclined to believe it's more of the second one, because you have a lot more legacy to hold on to, right? So I have three very interesting observations about all three speakers who shared today. I don't think it's intentional. We didn't pick them because of that, but they have 3 points I see in common. The first one is all three speakers shared that COVID-19 almost wiped out their entire business model. I heard almost everyone saying that revenue almost went to zero. I think everyone kind of mentioned in bits and pieces, right? And the very fact that they're still here today is already a testimony of how resilient they are as a business. But what is really inspiring for me is that they not only pivoted in order for their business to survive, but they almost took on upon themselves, like as if they have a moral obligation to continue to stay alive for the sake of their beneficiaries, who are equally hit hard by COVID-19, whether is it the refugees or the locals, or the disabled and marginalized, where they are completely cut off from the rest of the world, right? And what is encouraging for me is that even though they have been struggling and trundling along during this time, and they have opened up new business markets, but their old business model is still there, and it seems like there's a bit of a pent-up demand from the prospects or clients from their previous business model. So when the pandemic tides over, I think you guys are now blessed with having both markets that are equally strong, and hopefully we will be having a very different conversation if we were to reconvene this maybe next year, right? So we really look forward. Thank you guys so much for sharing. We are just so encouraged. So just one small closing message. As you guys may know, TBN Asia actually is actually running a program called the SEF program. It's called the Social Enterprise Training Hub. And actually what it does is we actually help, we are not an accelerator, we are not an incubator, but we only focus on one thing, which is to help social enterprises be more investment ready. So we are looking at social enterprises that have been around for a while. You want to tap into investment to scale up your business and your impact. I'm not going to go into a full pitch here because I know time is running short, but if you have been around for operating for at least 3 to 5 years and you are already post-revenue and you are really serious in looking at investment dollars to scale up, if you're operating in Southeast Asia, and if your business is in one of these areas, food and agriculture, affordable and accessible healthcare, water and energy, commerce and services, let us know, speak to us, because we would like to speak to you. Our cohort, our latest cohort application is already open. In fact, it's actually closing in a week and a half's time. So our next cohort will be running from November 2021 onwards. Like we said, we are only focused more on the investment readiness side of things. So a lot of incubators and accelerators already covered the fundamentals, right? So this one is really where we help focus more on your pitches, due diligence process, getting your data room ready, term sheet negotiations. Those are the areas that we focus on a lot more, where we understand that these are things that are probably a little bit less common in the market in terms of the kind of support that social enterprises are looking for. So if this is something that you feel that is relevant to you guys, let us know. We will love to speak to you. Do reach out to us. Okay. And with that, thank you very much. It has been a pleasure having all of you guys with us on a Friday evening and hear these amazing stories from our 3 speakers. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful evening. And I see that we have a closing poll as well. And if you can just help us fill that out, that would be great. All right, thanks everyone. And a special shout out also to our partners, to MaGIC and to SE Thailand. It has been great partnering with you guys on this event.
Are we going to take a picture?
Ah, good one. Venice, I'll leave you guys to do the honors.
Okay.
I think we have a number of people who have dropped off. All right, who's taking the screenshot? Okay, I think we're, sorry?
2, 3, smile.
Okay, we definitely heard that.
All right, thanks everyone.
Good weekend, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.